Welcome back to the Odd Shift Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Trucks. Today's guest is Adam Jablin. Now, Adam is a guy that actually came to my home. We did a podcast here that unfortunately the tech gods didn't work out in our favor, so we redid it. And we did it in the typical fashion of having somebody on. And the cool thing is he is the creator of the Hero Project. And it's about going through your hero's journey to kind of create this amazing life. But he went through a navigating of his own life to figure out how to make that useful. Things that do with addiction and drinking and medications and all this kind of stuff that you've seen and you saw people navigate, but maybe you don't always know their stories, or once they've got out of it, how they can benefit the world with that information. That's what this man does. So if you find yourself in a place where you want to hear about this cool journey of somebody going through it and fixing their life and doing amazing things on the backside of that journey, or I'm battling this and I want to know what somebody else has done, this will be a good episode to dive into, pay attention to, and extract and do something cool with it. So without further ado, let's hop into the episode. Hey, welcome back to the show. We are here with my friend, and I will say my friend Adam Jablin. When you come to my house, you get to become a friend. So folks, we did this at my house, and we used this tool that I didn't know how to use it properly. So we recorded it all in person and then realized it's not the caliber that I think you deserve. So we're redoing it, running it back, folks. So I'm going to play the role of a guy who doesn't know this guy a little bit, right? Just a little bit. That way I can extract the cool things from you guys. So as we go into the day, we're going to have that be a good flow. Adam, man, how are you today, my friend?
Brother, I'm happy. I'm well, joyful. I'm great. Listen, it's great to be here back with you. Although not in the pad training together, we're going to run it back together, but I'm in a really good place right now. I was, as I told you before, a couple of days ago, I was in your neck of the woods speaking to the penitentiary system and giving those men, some of the most untapped potential that are in there behind bars for years, most untapped potential, giving them the hope for when they build their lives on the outside. So I'm just in a really, really good space, bro.
I'd love to hear it, man. That's what we want. We want people that are in good places because, and I say it all the time, I'm going to say it again. I don't think you should be telling people how to run the race until you've crossed some finish lines, which you've crossed many in life, right? So as we unpack that today, I want to go deeper in. But my thought is when you go to the penitentiaries, what do you experience? Because I've been to boys and, like kind of like they call them like the juvenile hall, like, hall kind of things, which is a bunch of kids. And they're usually the men. And I've never been to a prison, right? So when you go to those environments, out of curiosity, like what are you thinking of before you go? Are you worried about their mentalities? Are you worried about like physically being accosted? Like how do you? Because I've never thought about going into those realms. Not against it, but I don't even know what it would be like.
Well, first off, let's open an invitation for you to come next time if you're
All
open
right.
to it. I know you also have a crazy schedule, but please know that opportunity is there for you.
All right.
And so let me give you what's really going on in my mind and then what I experience.
Okay.
What's really going on in my mind, Anthony, is I start playing a movie and I'm worrying about, am I going to get shanked? Am I going to get hurt?
Yeah.
Is there going to be a lockdown? Am I going to be let out? My imagination tends to go dark into Hollywood, right? But what really happens is I go and I see how much the officers and the wardens in the correction facility care about these men. And then when I go in, this was a level 2.
Okay.
When I walked in, I started feeling how much people really respected one another in there, cared about one another in there, and would like to do anything they can to get their freedom and to rehabilitate. But not only that, as you keep walking closer to the gymnasium or where they're ever going to have the talk, you start feeling this love and this appreciation because they know what you're thinking. They know you're projecting on them every evil crime that could ever be done. And they're actually wanting to show you how much they appreciate that you came and that they've been working on themselves very, very hard. And that they want you to see, I'm a man that wants to change my life. And I see you as a valuable tool to help me change my life. So once those stories start going away, Anthony, and you actually start feeling that love, the connection starts. And I always start, the first thing I say, Anthony, is the only difference between me and you is I didn't get caught.
Interesting. That's crazy. I mean, it's cool to think because I get that logic actually does, I guess, work in my mind of like, they're probably thinking like, I'm glad you came because most probably their own families won't even come visit them sometimes. Like they just kind of sit there and rot away. And it's unfortunate, man. I'm sure some people wholeheartedly belong there, but I think the whole purpose is for rehabilitation. So I'm sure a lot of men get rehabilitated and kind of go to some new stuff. So let's dive into the flow of this conversation about you, the work you do. But I always start this conversation, usually, which I've bypassed, I'm coming back to it, one question. And the question is this. If I'm walking around town, I sit down next to you in Boca Raton, Florida, where you happen to reside, and I'm in a coffee shop, this cool guy with these cool glasses sitting next to me, it's you. For some reason, you feel compelled to turn and start talking to me. In your opinion, why should I listen to you?
Anthony, it's because I care. I really, really care. And I want that human connection. So when I talk to you, you're going to see somebody that values you, respects you, is going to look you in the eye and speak the language of the heart. I don't want to talk about the Jets game. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about how much money we have. I don't want to talk about our sex lives. I want to talk to the man in front of me that's an equal.
Yeah.
That's an absolute equal. So that would be my number one asset. I really, truly care.
I get that. And I think being around you enough, I fully grasp that. And that's a big key to doing work. Now, that's not how we all start in life. We all have different walks of life, as you do as well. Where did the care come from? Because I know for me as a kid growing up, I didn't care about people. People didn't care about me, so I didn't care about people. But I think as I got older, I started realizing that I get to feel the experience of care by caring. Right? If someone didn't care for you, it's not like I can be on one side of that relationship and get a similar feeling. So where did you kind of enter into life where this journey took you to here? Like maybe way in the beginning, or maybe where you feel like it's a good part to start?
No, well, Anthony, it's a great question because first off, I want to say it with humility and I want to tell the truth of like, look, I'm a product of the 80s and 90s. I am a man's man, a guy's guy. Like, so my answer may sound like Mother Teresa, but it's not. I always had it. I always had this heart, this caring, this love, this wanting to help people, this love of service. Now, please mind you, let's go back to what I just said. I grew up in the 80s and 90s where it was Stallone and Arnold and larger than life characters.
Yeah.
It made me feel very feminine. It made me feel like it made me feel girly.
Yeah,
I mean, in football, I remember I would wrap the guy up the right way, right? When my coaches wanted me to lay him out, and I would help my opponent up, and I would hear my coach screaming, "Jablin, leave him on the ground!" So this thing that I have inside of me since birth, it wasn't something I loved and cared about. And also, let's segue it to now in this day and age where everybody wants to be a coach, and it surprises me because that's what you and I are. But I never wanted to be this. I wanted to be the star. I wanted to be the action hero. I didn't want to be the sweet person on the sidelines helping you achieve your goals. So the whole thing is like it's a dichotomy.
That's interesting because I think I get the idea of feeling like that feeling if it's always been kind of rolled into you. And I wonder where it comes from, because I'll say nature versus nurture. Like, do you think it was a nurture thing that kind of had that in you, or has always been your nature to have that? Because I know for me, I think I've always had the anger, but I had to learn through environments to actually be more peaceful. But that guy, he's there. Oh, he loves to come out, and not that I get mad or anything, but he comes out with an aggressive like feel. But I can work him in on stage and in content and coaching. He gets to exercise himself, but the best parts of him, we'll call it. But what like where do you think you built that? Was it through like life experiences? Was it something you just kind of were born with?
I truly believe, Anthony, it was something I was born with. I would say that, look, I didn't have one of those upbringings that were very hard or anything like that. My mother was very nurturing, but my dad, again, was a man's man. I mean, I had the polarity in the house, and I'll tell you one thing, my dad was not going to let me grow up some mama's boy. And he would say that. I am not, I think that was a statement. I am not going to allow you to be some mama's boy. So I definitely think that there was definitely some nurturing going on that I must have clung on to, but still, Anthony, still with all the hardships and fighting and alcoholism and addictions and my ups and downs and my trials and tribulations in life, this thing was always in me. It
Hmm.
was always there.
Yeah. I get that, man. And that's good to know that, because I think it's good to know who you are. That can't be a fun conversation too. And I'm thinking through my own son, because like my son, I won't call mama's boy, but like he says, I want to play football, dad. I'm very clear to him when he says he wants to play. Here's the thing. It's not like he wants to play youth football. He says, I want to play in the NFL. I go, okay, it's a different monster, my son. Now I will never make him feel like he's a lesser person or lesser man, but I will be very clear when his standard's not met. Like you stated, you want to play at this level. Do you think how you performed in this play, avoiding this guy, not hitting this guy, do you believe that's going to get you to college, let alone the NFL? And so I'm having this moment, but I can't imagine it doesn't feel any different than what you're saying, right? I'm sure hearing it from dad, like him pretty much saying like, you're not hitting hard enough. But it's like, I wonder if it's felt by him in a negative way, or like, I don't like him, when really it's just the standard of the game. If you go, hey, dad, I want to play volleyball. Cool, bro. Like, you go hit the ball. I'm not tripping, right? But you say you want to do this one thing. I know what that takes. I got to hold you to it. Like, where do you find, because you're a parent, where do you find yourself? You ever have those conversations with like holding your kids at a standard of what they said they wanted?
Absolutely. So my son just fell in love with and found bodybuilding, right?
Okay.
Found and is and literally is watching the guys that I used to watch. So he's studying, from everyone from Sean Ray to Dorian Yates to Jay Cutler to Ronnie Coleman. Like, there's a whole new era out there now.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's even knowing Arnold and Frank Zane, and Michael Hearn's been on the phone with him. I've been really blessed in that area. But when we're training, you got to let him know when there's another 1, 2, 3 reps in. And you got to, I remember training with him and his best friend, and he made a little joke right as his best friend unracked the weight, and he made a little joke, and I just saw the friend laugh and kind of like shake a little, and I'm like, the other side of me came out, re-rack the weight, right? And I had to look at my son and be like, not now. The second he's done with that last rep, joke all you want. This is not, this is not, I'm not beating you guys up. But when he's unracks the weight, you need to allow him to focus, and you got to cheer him on for extra reps. So I think your son, well, first of all, it's not even fair because I got to spend some time with you. I know how much he looks up to you, admires and respects you. And I hope you take this as a compliment, Anthony, but now seeing what's happening with Deion Sanders, when I was around your family, I felt like I was around the Sanders family. Like, you encourage and you inspire, but you're not going to give him the wiggle room to cower out.
No.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like you were whipping him, you were inspiring them. You were bringing the best out of them.
Yeah.
That's what I got to see.
I appreciate that. That's always a goal, man. And it's, not always appreciated by other people. Come coach for the whole football team. Some parents get it, some don't. Not my job to worry about whether you get it, but I'm going to do my best to make your son great, even if you're in the way. It's just one part of it. But if we go back to the times of, you dealing with that, how did you navigate out of that? Because like not having dad's, we'll call it acceptance or love, was that the feeling, or is that kind of like, I'm just making that up? And if that was the case, how did you kind of progress through that?
Yeah, no, I think there was some accurate feelings. I think my father wanted to make sure that he made a man of me.
Yeah.
I think my father wanted to make sure that I was responsible. And now at this stage of my life, I'm also understanding that I really wasn't the main focus. Like, he had a lot of stuff on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So even though I was craving and obsessing that attention and that approval, even when he was quiet, or even when he was distracted, or even when he was angry, it really had nothing to even do with me. You know what I mean? He was a captain of industry. He was a business savage. You know what I mean? My dad, people knew my dad as an assassin, So a lot of things that I was taking on, it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But I craved that approval. I craved that acceptance. I craved a man's love, and I was going to somehow get it any way I could.
I get that. What did that? Because obviously we know, we'll talk to the things that can kind of process through and journey through yourself. Those are the darker times,
Sure.
Did any of that have a role to play in that journey? Do you mind kind of let's progress towards what the battles you fought were, and how do you think that the early years played into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to do a quick run back just to show you how that wanting that father's love and approval had to do with that. But when I was growing up in New Jersey, I was the fat kid. I was the heavy kid. Now, my
Mhm.
dad used to call me El Chubbo. He didn't mean to like, it was
Yeah,
like teasing, you know? He wasn't trying to do some sort of mental
yeah.
health, you know? It was a different era,
Different
right?
time, yeah, yeah.
There was a movie in the 80s called The Goonies, and this
I
kid would
remember.
do the chunk
Chunk.
shuffle. He would like
Shuffle,
roll
shuffle.
his
Yeah,
fat like
shuffle,
this,
shuffle.
and my friends would have me do that,
Shuffle.
you know? Yeah.
That's
And
great.
then through business, and that's a whole different story, we moved down here to Florida, a
Mhm.
non-union state where, I could be at the pool every day, where I would wear my shirt in the pool. I think it was still sucked to my fat.
Yep, I remember. Yeah,
And I just remember my dad and mom, like they could see how upset I was. I was sweating all the time. And
yeah.
they started buying me Flex magazine and Muscle and Fitness magazine. And they bought me my
Mhm,
first bench press and a couple of dumbbells. And
mhm.
and they stopped taking McDonald's for my 6-piece chicken McNugget, large fry, apple pie, and Coke. And they started
Mm.
giving me chicken, grilled chicken breasts and apples. And it wasn't as known as you and I get to experience with our youth today. I mean, now between it's an information age. When you and
Yeah,
I were growing up, we would pick up every little thing we could from, for you with football, anywhere you could, with you
yeah.
lifting weights, anywhere. And I was the same way. I was just a sponge. But in 4 short years, I went from being the fattest kid in the class to the best built kid in the class.
Hmm.
I went from the guys going, "Yo, Adam, how many Oreos you eat last night?" to, "Hey, man, how much can you bench press?" The girls liked me. And now with the body, the older kids start drinking. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I'm
Yeah.
hanging with the older kids with my skills. I start drinking, and it fixes something inside of me that I did not know was broken. And that thing that was broken was the thing always craving my father's love and attention. But when
Mm.
that confident guy came out, it was like I felt like I could be his son.
Hmm.
I felt like I could be one day his not an equal, but like somebody that he would. So I would chase that with muscles, with booze, what I
Yeah.
mean, you name it. Just craving that approval and acceptance, and that actually, I'm using him as a role model, but it also tended Anthony to be with any man. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want to be accepted. I want to be approved, and I wanted to be challenged in some way to
Mhm.
show you that I was man enough and up to the standards. And a
Yeah.
lot of that revolved around my drinking.
Hmm. It's crazy. I mean, I get that. And it's a fear of mine too, because and I try to actively, like you said, my son looked up to me. We have these moments where they're heavy moments, and I get on him like he lost his starting jobs in football, and I'm using this as a way to kind of make sense of what you're saying to hopefully kind of give people another perspective to look at it, because I'm feeling that, right. I feel like it's tough, and you want your dad's love and his acceptance, and like you're trying to be somebody different to get it, like I want you to be who you are, but I want you to do certain things that make you somebody proud, right. And so I look at my son, I go, I've been getting on him, right? Because there's certain things that I want him to do and how I want him to function. But I've never robbed him of like I love yous. I never robbed him of like the moments of like, hey, damn good job. Like I'll get on you in a football game. I do. But I'll also be like, hey, that was a great play. Like, well done, right? And I'll make sure that they hears both of it. So I hope he doesn't have that same feeling. But my wife, she does make statements of like what he says. I don't know if it's getting through properly. So I think I need to do a better job personally of that, of making sure it's clear. But yeah, there is something to that. I think the desire for dad's, love. And I have a fear of like, I hope he doesn't go and medicate that, which we're a good family. We're locked in. We're very, very tight. None of us, my wife and I, don't drink. We don't do drugs, none of that kind of craziness. And we do train as a family. So I think but he navigates that kind of a weird way where I hope he doesn't lean into it. What was your experience of that though? Because right, you said I leaned towards drinking, and like, when did you start drinking? What did it turn into? How did it affect you? Because I'm sure someone listening right now has either been that person or knows that person.
Anthony, I started young, but I started very innocently, man. It wasn't like I had a drink and then the next morning I'm carrying around a paper bag hiding a bottle of vodka at school.
Hmm.
It, it started with Friday and Saturday nights, a little in late middle school, early high school, and
Yeah.
sometimes that would turn into doing some things during the weekdays. But what I found for me very quickly that was different for me was it was doing something for me that it wasn't doing for somebody else, which was my confidence, not arrogance, right?
Hmm.
But my confidence went through it was lowering a voice in my head. This different Adam was showing up, and not a mean Adam,
Hmm.
like just a confident and that could talk to anyone, be with anybody. But at the same time, I couldn't wait to do it again. While they were like, okay, the next weekend or after the game, I'm like, what about tomorrow? You know what I mean? And I was the first one in high school to get a fake driver's license. It was from Iowa. It was terrible, but it would work. Wait out in the boonies, and I would get all of us Coors Light, Miller Lights, Amstel Lights, whatever it was, wine coolers at the time.
Yeah.
I went to Arizona State University because it was the
Big
number
party
one
school.
party school in Playboy and Penthouse magazine, which
That's
it
crazy.
was,
Yeah.
and I dominated there. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I don't
right?
doubt it.
It became, Anthony, it's a shame to admit this, but it became, I removed God, and that became my first commandment. It was like not thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not, sleep with my neighbor's wife, or thou shalt love God only. My first commandment was thou shalt drink and party and have a good time. It just was, it was this ingrained identity.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was progressive for sure. And by the way, this is what also makes alcoholism and addiction a disease and not some other, manifestation of an allergy. It's a disease. It's 4 components. It's progressive. Over time, it gets worse. Like I just said, it's chronic. It's always there, right? Chronic, progressive. It's primary first, meaning it's not secondary, and it's fatal. Over time or that day, it can kill you. You remove one of these, it's a disorder. Disorders are terrible as well. Yeah. There's a lot of disorders in the world, but you have all 4 qualifications. It's a disease. Well, the progressive part started getting more and more and more. High school, college, work hard, play hard. I start experimenting with more things, right? My wife hates my drinking. I find Xanax. Before you know it, I'm mixing alcohol and Xanax. I can't sleep because of anxiety, and I'm supposed to be this businessman and this savage and this assassin like my dad. I'm taking Ambien to sleep. I tear my ACL and my MCL. I'm introduced to Oxycontin, Darvocet, Percocet. And by no means, Anthony, ever on this journey do I think I'm an alcoholic or an addict. I think I'm a work hard, play hard guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had no idea what I was.
It's tough, man. Because we just watched that whole Painkillers, show, and like it's a journey, and you humanize this thing that people go like, it's no big deal. It's just these, but like these real lives, man. And it's crazy because there's, certain levels where I think in moderation it's not crazy, but when it becomes like a negative effect on your life, and it's, I think, not only just diminishing what you have, but diminishing your trajectory or what you can be, then it gets to be a diabolical little demon, man. So how'd you navigate this? Like, what was the thing like that woke you up? Because I always know there's like those off shift moments, right? The wake up moment, something's got to change, right? And usually we slide into it slowly. And all of a sudden something goes crazy. Was there a singular moment, or you woke up one day like Tony Robbins doing dishes in your bathtub? Like,
I wish the big man was there. That relationship starts way down later in the road. But first off, thanks for I don't even know if I said this, so let me go back with my manners. Thank you for having me on the Awe Shift,
podcast. Man.
Thank you for allowing me in the Awe Shift house and the Trucks house the first time, and spending quality time with you and your beautiful family. It came in stages, Anthony. I had that Awe Shift moment was my intervention, where the people that love me the most sat around me and read these beautiful letters, all formatted kind of the same way. I love you, and you're a wonderful person when you do this and this and this, and then a middle paragraph. But I know what you've been up to. I know, and then giving me memories of it. When I drove my nephews drunk, when I almost slipped with my daughter down the steps, wasted on tequila, like,
oh wow,
a negative memory. And then a third paragraph, knowing that I could go back to the person they love, and will I get help? That was the first part of my Awe Shift. And then the main part was 9 days later in the treatment facility, I had a profound spiritual experience, where a part of my ego actually died, which actually, it came in the form of a panic attack. So for me, it was not this bright light experience. It was not a Salt of Paul experience. It was not a Bill Wilson bright light hospital experience. For me, it felt like something was dying. My heart rate went way over 180. It was awful. But this mental thing had to die for the new me to reborn.
Yeah.
And when that happened, and I jumped into this new way of life, my Awe Shift moment was fulfilled, but also it gives me profound respect for mental health and what really happens. Because Anthony, I'm being honest with you, nothing was wrong with me. What me setting my heart rate all the way up, it was
Yeah.
nerves, anxiety, worry. There was nothing physically wrong with me. It
Yeah.
was my mental state. Something was dying in me. I was freaking out. I was panicking, right? And when I surrendered, everything came back down to normal, and I walked out a new man.
Wow. That's crazy, man. It's like, what's the beautiful thing, you know,
Yeah.
because the people around you are better. Uh, you know, people see you as someone they can look up to over time too. Like it builds back to some great character. I've had my same journey of being like not the best guy and doing some dumb stuff, and then you kind of build back in. And it's a good re-entry back into life. When
Yeah.
you went through that process, that journey, like how much of it was just you solo, guided, alone? You know, did you have, you know, people around you? What was that? What was that kind of process like?
Oh man, no, I was never alone. I
Mm.
was never alone. Let's start with, I can't say it from memory, but you may know it. If anyone has ever read this beautiful poem called Footprints, it's a
Yeah.
poem in which, basically there's a guy saying there's two pairs of footprints across the sand, and it turns
Yep.
into one pair of footprints, and he's having a conversation with God, and he asks God, hey, how come in my hardest moments, there's only my pair of footprints, and then you come back, and he goes, no, 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 son, those are my footprints. During those moments, I carried you. I
Mhm.
was never alone.
Yeah.
I was never alone. However, it goes from a family and an intervention to a treatment center where I am surrounded by the most fantastic doctors, therapists, modalities, 12-step programs, inner child workshops, trauma workshops. I mean, I am inundated with information. Simple stuff too, Anthony. Like a
Mhm.
poster on the wall saying, make the appropriate face with the appropriate motion. I
Mhm.
was so broken that I lived in Florida and my emotions were in California. If
Hmm.
I hated you, I smiled. If I wanted to kill you, I smiled. If I was happy, I smiled. If I was
Mhm.
miserable, I smiled. You never knew. I was full of it. I was
Yeah.
a phony. I was a total phony. And I was always smiling and trying to show this bravado because I thought if I showed you any other emotion, you would know who the real me is.
Mhm.
And maybe you would have the courage to say, you drink a lot.
Yeah.
You take a lot of pills through the day. Have you noticed that? Like,
Mhm.
so I had to show you that I was always happy, always on my game. You
Yeah.
know,
It's heavy.
I'll laugh with you instead of you laughing at me. Like,
Yeah.
I built up a wall and I became a complete phony. And
It's crazy,
so I
man.
was never by myself, Anthony. Not
Yeah.
for one set. Even when I felt alone, God was there.
Yeah. That's huge, man. Because it is, and it's heavy when you have to carry the weight of happy when you have no happy in you. Like there was times in my journey, you you actually find a way to just kind of just muscle through it. But then, like, I don't know if you ever felt this. The end of some days, dude, I just had nothing in me. Like I remember I would get out of my gym and like I had to be happy for the people I'm working with. You know, I'm their coach. And to be, hey, you know, I get in the car and my body would just melt into the seat. And like I couldn't bring myself to start the car because I'm like, I don't know if I have the energy to get home. And I remember those heavy nights. And I don't know if you felt those ones, but those are tough, dude. Those are like, I call them foggy moments. You're just going through the motions of life and it feels like it's like you don't want to not be here, but like you don't know what to do. It doesn't feel like you're living a life.
I I was getting emotional when you were saying that because I don't know if I've ever heard anybody speak about them so clearly. Um, and I've been around the block, Anthony. That was really well said. Yeah, I felt those moments and that exhaustion and that despair. And how am I going to get through this next moment, this next day, let alone go turn this car on and inspire someone else?
Mhm.
Um, no, I have experienced that, but the way you worded it cannot be duplicated. That was really well said.
Thank you, man. I mean, just trying to give people a little bit of an ear because there's somebody listening that is in that place. You know, there's someone that's going through emotions. So what's I guess if you can go back and take a look at what you did, what are some things that someone can do who's there, right? Because humanity
Yeah.
wise, unfortunately, people are still battling these things because it's a natural journey of life. How does somebody start climbing out of these places emotionally?
Yeah. Well, I can give you first off some real practical things and also maybe a couple of stories that help me, if that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, please.
So if you're at that place, some real practical things are there's always help. So call somebody or call a hotline or go to a 12-step room or call a treatment center and just start asking questions.
Hmm.
Ask questions. Know that you're not alone and know that not everybody that answers the phone is trying to get you into their facility or get you into their coaching program. People
Yeah,
want to help and
I
share that
agree.
information.
Hmm.
The second thing is you could do self-experimental tests, right? See if you can go a couple of days without it. See how much your mind craves it, obsesses about it. See, really what I'm trying to do is put a little space in between your relationship and that substance, right? Just put a little space, because then you could see your own mind and see how much you're craving, obsessing. Look, sometimes people think they're an alcoholic, and believe it or not, they're not even close. It's actually just a really bad habit.
Yeah.
It's just a bad habit. Sometimes they've crossed that line and it's an unhealthy dependency. Give you an
Hmm.
example. I'm somebody that if I take vitamin C 10 days in a row, I won't leave the house on the 11th day without the vitamin C. Now,
Hmm.
because I wire this dependency. I need my vitamin C before I leave the house. Now, am
Yeah.
I addicted to vitamin C? No. Is anything going to happen to me if I don't take my vitamin C? No. Is it a habit? No, I'm acting a little more insane than a habit. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I
Yeah.
need this and this. And you see a lot of bodybuilders. I need this and this and this and this and this
Yeah.
protocol.
Hmm.
No, dude, you could train just as hard. You'll be fine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Hmm.
you develop these unhealthy dependencies. And then there's addiction. This is when your mind obsesses and there's a physical craving. And Anthony, you will do anything to calm the nervous system and the mind down. It's as natural as breathing.
Hmm.
When the mind is that twisted and the body is actually addicted, it's torture.
It's crazy, man. My wife
So
can talk
if
about
that
this.
happens, I could share a couple of stories. I'll make them as fast as possible.
No, please
But
do. 'Cause my wife and I were just talking about, like, we have family members that deal with these things. There's, battles there. And it's like, I hate to say this way, but like, I've never had a vice that's like locked me down. And I think there's a genuine fear of that for me. So I avoid it. Maybe it's because I've seen it in life and I've, experienced it. So when I start feeling myself too attached to something, I will sprint away from it, but I can understand people getting settled in, and then like your brain is wired for it. So please do, like, what are some things that that can help some people?
Actually, first, if it's okay, let me build a bridge too, because when you haven't experienced it, sometimes I just try to make it understandable to somebody, right?
Please. Yeah, that'd be
And I make
helpful.
it really, really like an easy, fun one. But
Mhm.
Anthony, if we decided we were going to do an experiment, right?
Yeah.
Just a fun experiment, and I'm going to give you one bag of M&Ms, just one bag of M&Ms every single day,
Mhm.
right? And you're like, okay, dude, bag of M&Ms, no problem. Even with sugar, no problem. I know it's 280 calories. I'll fix that to my carbs, whatever it is. But
Mhm.
I'm going to give you one bag every day for a year, right? Just one bag. So every day, day 1, 2, 3, all the way up day 30, 45, 60. You see me every day, and I'm covering and I'm delivering your M&Ms
Mhm.
every single day. Day 80, day 98, day 115, right? And then day 365 comes, and I bring you that bag of M&Ms. You have to eat it every single day. The experiment is over. You've had this small dose of sugar every single day. On day 366, you have been conditioned to want those M&Ms, but you've also gotten that sugar every day.
Mhm.
And you would get a small taste of what happened. The mind starts to obsess. When's Adam coming? Maybe Adam will come. Maybe Adam's still going to show up. Maybe the experiment will go on. Adam didn't show up. Okay, maybe I'll buy my own M&Ms, right? But now you're eating more than what was naturally allowed. Now you start hiding them because your wife's like, honey, you're eating a lot of M&Ms. So you start hiding them and you start putting them under the pillow. You start hiding them in interesting places.
Mhm.
This is what it's like.
Hmm.
You know what
Get
I
that.
mean? In
Yeah, I
the
do like
beginning, it's
M&Ms,
as
bro.
natural as breathing, man.
Yeah, no, I
It's as
get it.
natural as breathing.
It's
Then you're
crazy.
hiding, you're lying, you're manipulating, you're being calculated.
Mhm.
You need those M&Ms.
Yeah,
So
it's
a couple of
crazy.
tools that was taught to me, I think it was about spirituality. And
Okay.
this one is great. What a lot of us are not looking to get high and to get wasted. A lot of us are looking for a spiritual intoxication. We want our spirits to be high. And I was taught that there's something different between healthy spirituality and unhealthy spirituality. That all of us are born with all the spirituality we're ever going to need. Let me reemphasize that. We're all born with all the spirituality we're ever going to need. Spirituality is like muscles. So I can't go across the screen and give Anthony another deltoid, another bicep, another tricep,
Mhm.
another pectoral muscle, another quadricep, another hamstring. But what we can do with this God given gift is, well, not with Anthony because he's he's an Adonis, but we
No.
can make it bigger, faster, stronger, healthier, more fit. Spirituality is like fitness. It's like muscles.
Mhm.
You can't get more of it. God gave you all the spirituality you're ever going to need. Now, you can nourish it. If you want to go to the Himalayas, you want to read the 4 Gospels, you want to read the 5 books of the Torah, you want to go on meditation streaks, whatever it is, you can nourish it, but you can't get more of it.
Mhm.
You could just enhance what God gave you. On the other hand, there's unhealthy spirituality, and you could see it from a mile away. People can't find their words. They don't look you in the eye. There's kind of like this dark cloud around them. They give off a vibe of maybe a little dishonesty, or they're kind of pushing you away a little bit.
Mhm.
You could see healthy spirituality versus unhealthy spirituality from a mile away.
Yeah.
That's building a bridge to people, because what they start seeing is, okay, this is a spiritual sickness, right? They used to call, when I grew up in Jersey, they used to call alcohol spirits. It was fine wine
Yeah.
and spirits, right?
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
a spiritual sickness which needs a spiritual solution. So when they realize that, okay, they can get the spirit healthy and they can find the modalities to do that, that's one thing. And the other thing that happened to me, which cracked the code, was I sat with this guy named Father Ron Bersha, Catholic priest. I'm a
Okay.
Jew from Jersey,
Mhm.
right? And he has me put my arm out and he goes like this. And he goes, Adam, you see what I did there? So I look at my arm. I look at the Father, Anthony. I'm like, Father, I'm sorry. I don't see anything. He does it again. He goes, you see what I did that time? Now I'm a little uncomfortable, so I use humor. And I'm like, Father, I'm Jewish. Maybe there's a disconnect here. He laughs.
Mhm.
He does it again. He goes, you see what I did that time? I'm looking at the Father. Now I don't even know what to say, Anthony. I'm like,
Yeah.
Father, I heard about you guys with little boys. You know what I mean? I heard it.
Mhm.
He starts laughing. He turns off the light. He takes a UV light off, right? UV light. And he puts the UV light on. And all of a sudden, there are all of his fingerprints glowing in the dark,
Mm.
right? And I'm staring at them. I'm staring at these fingerprints glowing. And he goes, do you think you could believe in a power that you can't see, taste, touch, none of the 5 basic senses? It's been all around you, loving you, guiding you, protecting you, and brought you here to me now. And I'm staring at these fingerprints, right? And I'm like, Father, I can believe. I can believe. Those exercises, when done with somebody, can open their minds to that there's something more profound going on,
Mhm.
right? And it allows them to understand that they can get well,
Yeah.
right?
It's a big
It's not
thing.
telling somebody, put the drink down, man up, suffer through it. No one's going to go through it. When you start really enhancing the spirit, you know what it's like as an athlete, that winning spirit. There's a feeling, right? There's something way different being with Michael on the Bulls, right,
Mhm.
than being on whoever it was back in the day on the Clippers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a winning spirit. When you can reawaken the spirit, you're giving them a chance to get through this.
I get it. It's a big piece. Because I always tell people I can't give you some nugget to change your life, but I can give you a pathway that you build to where you actually want to. Like you build some
Mm.
pride and some confidence, step into stuff. But it is a big piece is believing, man. It's a big initial thing. So is this where you kind of led into the Hero Project? Is that even remotely connected in some way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the Hero Project is my coaching program, right?
Mhm.
But it's a project,
Yeah.
meaning each person I coach one-on-one or within groups. What makes it different than programs, it's not like chest and triceps on one day, back and biceps the next day, or it's not
Yeah.
the 12 steps. It's really catered to the individual and the individual needs,
Mhm.
right? But we are going to go through the hero's journey. And within those hero's journey, there's always the separation,
Mhm.
right? Separation from the drink, separation from the drug, separation from the environment, separation from the fear. In every movie, it's different. It's separation from the old world, separation
Yeah.
from Tatooine if you're Luke Skywalker, separation from Krypton, whatever it is. You go through the initiation process where we're going to teach you new skills, new ideas, new beliefs, new ways of seeing the world. You have to see that in the movie. It's learning the Force. It's you start realizing that you're not even from this planet and you can fly. It's putting on your bat suit and learning how to be a ninja. But you
Yeah. Yeah.
initiate these skills, but eventually you have to face that demon. You have to face that dragon. And 9 out of 10 times, that resides within us. It's a fear that we haven't looked at. And it's having that conversation with that spouse, with that loved one. It's having enough courage to say, I want to do this instead of that. But we've now built up the armor that you feel confident enough to do it. And in every hero's journey, Anthony, there's a return home. So it's not you conquer and slay the dragon and then it's now look at me, I'm a rock star, go F yourself. You come home a better man, a better woman, a better person, and you lead from example. So that's really what my life is about, is taking people through that hero's journey.
I like that, man. It does. I think we all need to go through it, because there's always that moment where it's not like you find people when they're at like that, the critical bottom, right? They call it the rock bottom kind of space, and then you need to climb out of it. But we're all on our own hero's journey, whether you're in the tailing end of it and maintaining, or sometimes we're before we even know that the fall's coming, but there's always that space. I'm assuming you find people when they're in the bottom of that hole. Is that kind of like the space you want to find them in, or do you want to avoid that? Or like, where's the space for people to kind of step in and work with you if it's like, man, I'm hearing this, but I don't know if it's for me?
Well, a lot of the times these people are finding me, and everyone's bottom is to their own. It's their own liking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. The story around it doesn't necessarily matter, because it could be a spiritual bottom, it could be a financial bottom, it could be an emotional bottom, it could be a mental bottom, it could be all of it. But a lot of the times when they find me, Anthony, they're actually ready.
Gotcha.
They're ready. And many times, it's either the mother, the father, the spouse, the agent, right? The sports team that's finding me saying he's ready. Even if he says he's not ready, he's ready. And then if they don't think they're ready, it's not my job to convince them, because nobody can convince them. You got to respect. Can you imagine somebody telling you what you need? You'd be like, yeah, my job is to build a common language with them, right? I need to build a common language. And I need to explain to them in their own language and say that tires win the race. What do you mean? Like, they look at, what do you mean tires win the race? It means you've got the body, you've got the money, you've got this, you're signing the art, but you ain't going to last. They're calling me in here because this isn't going well. You're burning through your tires too quick, right? Tires win the race. That's what's going to get you. I mean, if you got everything going, but you can't get to the finish line, this is for naught. But that's an athlete client. Sometimes, Anthony, I'm speaking to a young man or a young woman that, in an entrepreneurial setting. You have to develop a common language and make them want to participate.
That does make sense. My sister's going through some stuff right now too, and as I'm hearing this, I'm trying to sift through and see what I can, find in some way to benefit her, because we all want to see her do well. But like she's in that place, man. You can't
build a common language, bro. Build a common language. Don't if you speak football encouragement and personal development, but she's an artist. She's seen you her whole life. She knows what you're going to tell her. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And she's not going to relate to it's a game of inches to get that first down.
Obviously, yeah.
You know what I mean? She so when you build a common language, they can hear you. I just want my client to hear me.
Yeah. Smart. It makes a ton of sense. Come to where the person's at. Yeah. Gosh, this is good stuff, man. And we somehow have gotten to the end of the podcast. I don't even know how that time flew. It zips. Does it zip by? It's crazy when it just zips by when you're having great conversations. So 2 questions, and I've asked this question before, and I'm curious if the answer is similar. But the first question of this one's going to be, one, where can people come find more out about you, the work you do? If they want to engage with you, where I send them?
Yes. So please send them, Anthony, at Adam Jablin on all social media platforms. Plus, you can find me at info@adamjablin.com, and it's me and a very small team. So you will get personal information from me. You're not going to be just a number, and my team is very well assessed and everything. We'll just make sure that you're taken care of and that we address your needs, not just what we offer.
I like it. And the final question: what promise did God make to the world when he created you?
I want to change it up this time. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
Here we go. When God made me, he promised the world, you'll get through the hero's journey, but you'll have a great time doing it.
It's a good one.
Yeah, you'll have a great time doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure a great time reflecting what you've gone through too.
Yeah.
It's a good one, man. I'll take that one. It's the first one I've heard like that. I like that. Well done, man. I love the convo. Appreciate you. Those of you guys who are tuned in with us, thank you so much for hanging out, because you could have been anywhere doing anything else in the world, but you came to hang out with me, my man, Adam Jablin. Make sure you guys go and check out the work he does. He's in it for the right reasons, and if you need that help, go find this man. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Adam Jablin signing off.
Hey, thank you for tuning into the Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.